HOA boss Barbara saw my wife feeding our newborn baby on our porch. She got angry and grabbed my 3-day-old daughter from my wife's arms. She said she was taking our baby away. Barbara didn't know I'm the county sheriff. Big mistake. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching also. Like and subscribe for more stories. It was supposed to be the happiest day of our lives. My wife Sarah and I had just brought our newborn daughter Lily home from the hospital. After 3 days in the NICU, our precious baby was finally healthy enough to come home to Meadowbrook Gardens, our quiet suburban neighborhood. Sarah was still weak from the difficult birth. The doctors had warned us she needed complete rest for at least 2 weeks. I had taken time off from my job as county sheriff to take care of my family during this special time. "She's so beautiful, Jake," Sarah whispered, holding our tiny daughter in her arms. Lily was sleeping peacefully, her little fingers curled around Sarah's thumb. I looked at my wife and daughter and felt my heart overflow with love. "She's perfect, just like her mother." Sarah smiled, but I could see the exhaustion in her eyes. The birth had been complicated, and she was still in pain from the emergency surgery. All she wanted was to rest at home with our baby. "Let me take her while you get some sleep," I said gently, reaching for Lily. "Just for a little while," Sarah agreed. "I'm so tired, but I don't want to put her down." I understood completely. After waiting 9 months and then nearly losing both of them during the birth, I never wanted to let either of them out of my sight. We had set up a comfortable chair on our front porch where Sarah could get some fresh air while staying close to home. The doctor had said fresh air would help her recovery. Our neighborhood was always quiet and peaceful, so it seemed like the perfect place for my wife to rest. I helped Sarah get settled in the porch chair with Lily in her arms. The afternoon sun was warm but not too hot, and there was a gentle breeze. It was exactly what the doctor had ordered. "I'll just close my eyes for a few minutes," Sarah said, adjusting Lily's blanket. "Take all the time you need, honey. I'll be right inside making lunch." I kissed both my girls on the forehead and went inside to prepare something light for Sarah to eat. Through the kitchen window, I could see them both resting peacefully on the porch. It was a perfect family moment. But our peace was about to be shattered by the neighborhood's most hated resident. Barbara Whitman was the self-appointed queen of Meadowbrook Gardens. As the HOA president, she had made everyone's life miserable for the past 5 years. She was a woman in her 60s with gray hair always pulled back in a tight bun and a permanent scowl on her face. Barbara believed she owned the entire neighborhood. She spent her days walking around looking for violations, writing citations, and making families miserable. She had fined people for having the wrong color mailbox, for parking in their own driveways the wrong way, and for children playing too loudly. But today Barbara was about to cross a line that no human being should ever cross. I was in the kitchen slicing fruit when I heard raised voices outside. Through the window, I saw Barbara standing on our front lawn, pointing at Sarah and shouting. My blood ran cold. Sarah was holding our newborn baby, still recovering from surgery, and this woman was yelling at her. I dropped everything and ran outside. "What's going on here?" I demanded. Barbara turned to me with her usual nasty expression. "Your wife is violating HOA regulations by conducting personal business on community property." "What are you talking about?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "She's breastfeeding that baby in public view. It's inappropriate and against our community standards." I looked at Sarah, who was pale and shaking. Lily was crying in her arms, clearly upset by the shouting. "Barbara, my wife just gave birth 3 days ago. She's resting on our own porch with our newborn baby. She's not violating anything." "Don't tell me what's a violation and what isn't," Barbara snapped. "I've been managing this community for 5 years. Public breastfeeding is inappropriate and disturbing to other residents." Sarah tried to speak, her voice weak. The baby was hungry. I wasn't bothering anyone." "You're bothering me," Barbara said coldly. "And if you're bothering me, you're bothering the whole community." I stepped between Barbara and my wife. "You need to leave. Now." "I don't take orders from you," Barbara said with a nasty smile. "I give the orders around here." What happened next was something I never could have imagined in my worst nightmares. Barbara pushed past me and reached for my baby. "If you won't control your wife, I'll handle this situation myself," she said, grabbing for Lily. "Don't touch my baby." Sarah screamed, trying to pull away. But Sarah was still weak from surgery. Barbara was stronger and more aggressive. Before I could react, Barbara had grabbed Lily from Sarah's arms. My newborn daughter started crying desperately as this stranger held her roughly. "Give me my baby." Sarah screamed, trying to stand up but falling back down in pain. "I'm confiscating this child until you learn to follow community rules," Barbara declared, holding my crying daughter like she was some kind of property. Something snapped inside me. I had dealt with dangerous criminals as a sheriff, but I had never felt rage like this. This woman had just stolen my newborn baby from my wife's arms. "Put my daughter down right now," I said in the voice I used with the most dangerous criminals. "Or what?" Barbara laughed. "You'll call the police? I am the law in this neighborhood." Sarah was sobbing hysterically, reaching for our baby. "Please give her back. Please. She needs her mother." "Maybe next time you'll think twice before breaking HOA rules," Barbara said with satisfaction. Lily was screaming now, a desperate cry that broke my heart. She wanted her mother, and this monster was keeping them apart. I was about to tackle Barbara when she made another move that shocked me even more. "I'm taking this baby to child services," Barbara announced. "Clearly you two are unfit parents if you can't follow simple community guidelines." She started walking toward her car, carrying my screaming baby. "Stop!" I shouted. "You cannot take my child." "Watch me," Barbara called back over her shoulder. Sarah was now sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. "Jake, stop her. Don't let her take our baby." I ran after Barbara, my heart pounding with terror and rage. She was actually kidnapping my newborn daughter. "Barbara, if you don't give me my baby right now, I will arrest you for kidnapping." She laughed. "You? Arrest me? You're nobody. I run this neighborhood. I'm County Sheriff Jake Morrison," I said in my most official voice. "And you're under arrest." Barbara's face went white. For the first time, her confident expression faltered. You're lying. Give me my daughter, or I'll add child endangerment to the kidnapping charges." Barbara's hands started shaking as she held my crying baby. She was beginning to understand the magnitude of what she had done. I was just enforcing HOA rules," she stammered. "You just kidnapped a newborn baby from her mother," I said, pulling out my phone. "I'm calling for backup." "Wait," Barbara said, panic creeping into her voice. "This is all a misunderstanding. Give me my daughter. Now." Barbara looked around desperately as if hoping someone would help her. But our neighbors who had heard the commotion were staring at her in horror. Everyone could see what she had done. Mrs. Patterson from next door was recording everything on her phone. "I can't believe what I just witnessed," she said loudly. "She just stole that baby." "This is insane," called out Mr. Rodriguez from across the street. "Someone call 911. Barbara realized she was surrounded by witnesses to her crime. Her face was getting redder by the second. "I demand you return my child immediately," I said in my official sheriff voice. "Any further delay will result in additional charges." Lily was still crying desperately. The sound was breaking my heart and driving me to the edge of violence. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to protect my baby. Finally, Barbara's nerve broke. She practically threw Lily at me, her hands shaking. "Here, take your brat. But this isn't over." I caught my precious daughter and immediately checked her for injuries. She seemed okay physically, but she was traumatized and crying uncontrollably. "Shoo, baby girl, daddy's here," I whispered, holding her close. I rushed back to Sarah, who was still sobbing on the porch. "Is she okay? Is she hurt?" Sarah asked frantically, reaching for Lily. "She's okay, honey. She's safe now." I placed Lily in Sarah's arms, and both my girls held each other tightly. Sarah was crying with relief, and Lily slowly began to calm down in her mother's arms. But I wasn't done with Barbara Whitman. Not by a long shot. I pulled out my sheriff's badge and held it up for everyone to see. "Barbara Whitman, you are under arrest for kidnapping, child endangerment, assault, and threatening public safety." Barbara's face went completely white. "You can't arrest me. I'm the HOA president." "The HOA doesn't give you the right to steal babies," I said, reaching for my handcuffs. "I wasn't stealing anything. I was just. You were just what? Committing a felony?" By now, a crowd of neighbors had gathered. Everyone was staring at Barbara in shock and disgust. These were people who had suffered under her tyranny for years, and now they were seeing her get what she deserved. "Sheriff Morrison," called out Mrs. Patterson, "I recorded the whole thing. She definitely kidnapped your baby." "Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. That will be valuable evidence." I called for backup while keeping my eyes on Barbara. She was looking around desperately, trying to find someone who would support her. "This is ridiculous," she shouted. "I run this neighborhood. You can't treat me like a common criminal." "You are a common criminal," I replied. "And actually what you did is worse than common. Most criminals don't steal babies." Sarah was holding Lily close, still crying but relieved to have our daughter back safely. How could you do this? Sarah asked Barbara through her tears. She's just a baby. A newborn baby. I was enforcing community standards. Barbara insisted, but her voice was shaky now. Community standards don't include kidnapping, said Mr. Rodriguez angrily. What you did was sick. Within 10 minutes, 3 police cars arrived at our house. Deputy Williams, who worked under my command, got out of the first car. Sheriff Morrison, what's the situation? Deputy Williams, I need you to arrest Barbara Whitman for kidnapping my newborn daughter. Deputy Williams looked shocked. She kidnapped your baby? She physically took my 3-day-old daughter from my wife's arms and attempted to leave the property with her. Williams looked at Barbara with disgust. Ma'am, you're under arrest for kidnapping. This is insane. Barbara screamed. I'm being persecuted. No, ma'am, you're being arrested for committing a serious crime. Williams read Barbara her rights while she continued to protest her innocence. The neighbors watched in satisfaction as she was finally held accountable for her actions. I want a lawyer, Barbara demanded. You'll get your phone call at the station, Williams replied, putting her in handcuffs. As they loaded Barbara into the police car, she turned back to shout at us. This isn't over. I'll sue you for false arrest. I'll have your job. Good luck with that, I called back. Kidnapping is a felony. The police car drove away with Barbara in the back seat, and our neighborhood finally felt peaceful again. Sarah was still shaking from the trauma. I can't believe that just happened. She actually took our baby. It's over now, honey. She'll never bother us again. But I knew this was just the beginning. Barbara Whitman was about to learn what happens when you mess with a sheriff's family. Over the next few days, I conducted a thorough investigation into Barbara's activities as HOA president. What I found was worse than I had imagined. Barbara had been abusing her power for years. She had illegally fined families, threatened people with false legal action, and made many residents' lives miserable with her arbitrary rules. Mrs. Patterson came forward with her recording of the kidnapping. The video clearly showed Barbara grabbing Lily from Sarah's arms and refusing to return her. Sheriff Morrison, Mrs. Patterson said, I've been keeping records of Barbara's behavior for 2 years. She's harassed every family in this neighborhood at some point. She showed me a thick folder full of documentation. Barbara had fined the Johnsons for having a pink flamingo in their yard. She had threatened to call child services on the Garcias because their children played outside too loudly. She had tried to force the Chens to remove their cultural decorations from their front yard. This is a pattern of harassment and discrimination, I told Mrs. Patterson. It gets worse, she continued. 3 months ago, she tried to have the Wilson family evicted because their teenage son had friends over for a birthday party. The more I learned, the angrier I became. Barbara hadn't just committed one crime against my family. She had been terrorizing innocent people for years. I also discovered that many of her HOA rules weren't even legal. She had been making up regulations and threatening people with fake violations. Deputy Williams, I said, I want you to interview every family in this neighborhood. I want to know every illegal thing Barbara Whitman has done. Yes, sir. This is personal, isn't it? She kidnapped my newborn baby. Yes, it's personal. Word spread quickly through Meadowbrook Gardens about Barbara's arrest. Families who had been afraid to speak up before now came forward with their stories. The Johnson family told us how Barbara had fined them $500 for having the wrong color front door, even though there was no rule about door colors in the HOA documents. The Garcia family shared how Barbara had threatened to call child services because their children played soccer in their own backyard. The Chin family revealed that Barbara had demanded they remove their Chinese New Year decorations, claiming they were not appropriate for American neighborhoods. She's been a bully for years, Mr. Johnson told me. But nobody knew how to stop her. We were afraid she'd make our lives even worse if we complained, added Mrs. Garcia. She told us we didn't belong in this neighborhood, said Mr. Chin sadly. She made us feel unwelcome in our own home. Each story made me more determined to see Barbara face full justice for her crimes. The Wilson family's story was particularly disturbing. Barbara had called the police on their teenager's birthday party, claiming it was a gang gathering. The police had found nothing wrong, but the family was humiliated in front of the whole neighborhood. She's destroyed the peace and happiness of this community, Mrs. Wilson told me. What she did to your family was the last straw. By the end of the week, I had statements from 15 families documenting years of harassment, illegal fines, and discriminatory treatment. The district attorney's office was very interested in Barbara's case. Kidnapping a newborn baby was big news, and they wanted to prosecute to the fullest extent of the law. Sheriff Morrison, District Attorney Rebecca Stone told me, "This case is going to send a message that no one is above the law, regardless of their position in the community." Good. Barbara Whitman thinks she can do whatever she wants to people. With the video evidence and witness statements, we have a strong case for kidnapping, child endangerment, and assault. I had also filed a civil lawsuit against Barbara for emotional distress and violation of our civil rights. My lawyer, David Kim, was confident we would win significant damages. "What she did to your family was unforgivable," Attorney Kim said. "No mother should ever have her newborn baby stolen from her arms." Sarah was still having nightmares about the incident. She would wake up crying, thinking someone was trying to take Lily away again. "I keep seeing her face," Sarah told me. "The way she looked when she grabbed our baby. Like Lily was just an object to her." "She's going to pay for what she did to us," I promised. The pediatrician confirmed that the trauma could have long-term effects on Lily's development. Being separated from her mother so soon after birth and handled roughly by a stranger could cause attachment issues. "This wasn't just a property dispute or a neighbor argument," Dr. Martinez explained. "This was an assault on your family bond during a critical time." The trial of Barbara Whitman became the biggest news story in our county. The courtroom was packed with neighbors, reporters, and concerned citizens. Barbara had hired an expensive lawyer who tried to argue that she was just doing her job as HOA president. "My client was enforcing community standards," her lawyer claimed. "She never intended to harm anyone." District Attorney Stone destroyed that argument quickly. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, there is no community standard that allows someone to steal a baby from its mother's arms. What we saw in that video was kidnapping, pure and simple." Mrs. Patterson's video was played for the jury multiple times. Each time, gasps could be heard from the courtroom as people watched Barbara grab my crying baby. When Sarah testified, there wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom. "She just took my baby," Sarah said through tears. "I had just given birth 3 days earlier. I was weak and in pain, and this woman just grabbed my newborn daughter like she was taking away a toy." "How did that make you feel?" Attorney Stone asked gently. "Like I was dying. Like someone was ripping my heart out. All I could think was that I might never see my baby again." The jury was clearly moved by Sarah's testimony. Several jurors were crying. When I testified, I focused on the legal aspects of what Barbara had done. As a law enforcement officer, I've seen many crimes. But I've never seen anything as heartless as what Barbara Whitman did to my family. Barbara's lawyer tried to make the case about HOA authority, but it was hopeless. The evidence was overwhelming. One by one, our neighbors testified about Barbara's years of harassment and abuse of power. Mrs. Patterson showed the jury her documentation of Barbara's illegal behavior. She created a climate of fear in our neighborhood. Mr. Johnson testified about the illegal fines. She made up rules that didn't exist and threatened us when we questioned her. Mrs. Garcia spoke about the discrimination. She targeted families who didn't look like her or speak like her. Mr. Chen's testimony was particularly powerful. She told us we didn't belong in America. She made our children ashamed of their heritage. The Wilson family testified about the birthday party incident. She called the police on our teenage son for having friends over. She tried to criminalize normal teenage behavior. By the time all the witnesses had testified, the jury had a clear picture of Barbara as a serial bully who had terrorized an entire neighborhood. Barbara's lawyer had no real defense. He tried to argue that HOA presidents have broad authority, but the kidnapping video made his arguments look ridiculous. When Barbara took the stand in her own defense, she made things worse for herself. "I was just trying to maintain community standards," she insisted. "Did those standards include taking babies from their mothers?" Attorney Stone asked. "I wasn't taking the baby. I was temporarily confiscating." "You were kidnapping a newborn child." "No. I was just trying to teach them a lesson." The jury looked disgusted. Barbara had just admitted that she stole a baby to teach a lesson. The jury deliberated for only 2 hours before reaching their verdict. Guilty on all counts. Barbara's face went white as the foreman read the verdict. Guilty of kidnapping. Guilty of child endangerment. Guilty of assault. The judge was clearly angry as he prepared to sentence Barbara. "Mrs. Whitman, in 30 years on this bench, I have never seen such a callous disregard for the welfare of a child. What you did was not only criminal, it was evil." Barbara started crying, finally understanding the full consequences of her actions. "You terrorized a family during what should have been the happiest time of their lives. You stole a newborn baby from her mother's arms. You traumatized a 3-day-old child and her parents. The judge sentenced Barbara to 5 years in prison for kidnapping, plus additional time for the other charges. She would serve a minimum of 3 years before being eligible for parole. Furthermore, the judge continued, you are permanently banned from serving in any HOA capacity, and you must pay restitution to all the families you have harmed. Barbara was led away in handcuffs, crying and begging for mercy. Please? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. But it was too late. Justice had been served. Our civil lawsuit against Barbara was settled out of court for a significant amount. Her insurance company paid damages for emotional distress, medical costs for Sarah's extended recovery, and therapy for our family. This settlement will ensure that your family is taken care of, Attorney Kim explained. It also sends a message that this kind of behavior has serious financial consequences. The money wasn't the important part though. What mattered was that Barbara could never hurt another family the way she had hurt ours. The HOA also underwent major changes. A new board was elected, and strict rules were put in place to prevent anyone from abusing their authority again. The new board will focus on actually helping the community instead of terrorizing it, Mrs. Patterson explained. She had been elected as the new president. All of Barbara's illegal fines were reversed, and families received refunds for money they had paid under false pretenses. The Chen family was given a formal apology, and the neighborhood organized a celebration of cultural diversity. For the first time in 5 years, this feels like a real community, Mr. Johnson said. It took months for our family to fully heal from the trauma of what Barbara had done to us. Sarah needed therapy to deal with the anxiety and nightmares. The thought of someone taking Lily away again haunted her for a long time. I keep thinking about what could have happened if you hadn't been there, Sarah told me during one of her difficult nights. But I was there. And I'll always be there to protect you and Lily. Lily seemed to recover more quickly than we did. Babies are resilient, and with love and care she grew into a happy, healthy child. Our neighbors rallied around us during the healing process. The same community that had been terrorized by Barbara came together to support each other. Mrs. Patterson organized meals for our family while Sarah recovered. The Garcias offered to babysit when we needed time alone. The Chens brought traditional remedies to help Sarah with her anxiety. This is what a real community looks like, I told Sarah. People taking care of each other instead of trying to control each other. The neighborhood children who had been afraid to play outside when Barbara was in charge, were now laughing and playing freely again. Listen to that, Sarah said one evening as we sat on our porch with Lily. That's the sound of a happy neighborhood. 1 year after Barbara's arrest, Meadowbrook Gardens had become the kind of community we had always hoped it would be. The new HOA board focused on organizing fun events instead of finding violations. There were block parties, holiday celebrations, and community service projects. It's amazing how much better everything is without one toxic person, Mrs. Wilson observed. Lily celebrated her first birthday with a party in the community park. The same park where Barbara used to patrol looking for rule violations was now filled with happy families celebrating together. Look at our little girl, Sarah said, watching Lily play with the other children. She's growing up in a place where she'll be loved and protected. I looked around at our neighbors, all of whom had supported us through our ordeal and were now celebrating with us. She's going to grow up knowing that when bad things happen, good people come together to make them right. Barbara was still in prison and would be for several more years. Sometimes I wondered if she understood what she had done wrong, or if she still thought she was the victim. But mostly I didn't think about her at all. She was part of our past, not our future. The experience taught our family and our community several important lessons. First, that no one has the right to abuse power no matter what position they hold. Second, that communities are strongest when they support each other instead of trying to control each other. Third, that standing up to bullies is the only way to stop them from hurting innocent people. What happened to us was terrible, Sarah reflected. But look at all the good that came from it. She was right. Because we fought back against Barbara's abuse, 15 other families were freed from her tyranny. Children could play outside without fear. Families could express their cultural heritage without harassment. Our neighborhood became a model for other communities dealing with HOA abuse. Sheriff Morrison, Attorney Kim told me, your case has been cited in 3 other states where families are fighting similar battles. I was proud that our struggle had helped other families, but I was most proud of how strong Sarah had become. You saved our baby, she told me. But more than that, you saved our whole community. We saved each other, I replied. And we'll always protect each other. 5 years have passed since Barbara Whitman kidnapped our daughter. Lily is now a happy, confident little girl who loves playing with her friends in our peaceful neighborhood. Sarah has fully recovered from the trauma and has become an advocate for families facing HOA abuse. She speaks at conferences and helps other communities reform their governing systems. I continue serving as county sheriff, but the experience with Barbara changed how I approach my job. I'm more aware of how people in positions of authority can abuse their power, and I'm more committed to protecting the vulnerable. Barbara was released from prison after serving 4 years. She moved far away from our county and, as far as I know, has never been involved with an HOA again. Our neighborhood continues to thrive under fair and reasonable leadership. The community garden that Mrs. Patterson started has become a place where families from all backgrounds come together. Daddy, Lily asked me recently, Mrs. Patterson told me that a bad lady used to live here. Is that true? Yes, sweetheart. But the important thing is that when bad things happen, good people work together to make them better. Like you and Mommy did? Like all of us did. Together. Lily nodded seriously, then ran off to play with her friends. I watched her go, grateful every day that we live in a community where children can grow up safe and happy. Barbara Whitman tried to steal our baby and destroy our peace. Instead, she brought our community together and made us all stronger. Sometimes justice takes time, but it always finds a way to prevail. And in Meadowbrook Gardens, where families of all backgrounds now live in harmony, that justice continues every single day. The woman who thought she could take everything from us ended up giving us something precious. The knowledge that when good people stand together, they can overcome any evil. Our baby, who Barbara tried to steal, grew up surrounded by love, protection, and the certainty that her community would always have her back. That's the real victory. Not just stopping one bully, but creating a place where bullies can never win again. And every time I see Lily playing safely in our neighborhood, laughing with friends from many different families, I'm reminded that the fight was worth it. Barbara Whitman thought she was taking our baby to teach us a lesson. Instead, we taught her and the whole world that no one has the right to harm innocent families. And that lesson will protect children in our community for generations to come.